Perfect. All right. Well, hi everyone. I am Tamika. I am the founder of Black Girls Who Write, and we have our amazing guest today, Adrienne Thurman, who is an amazing author. I'm going to give you a quick backstory about Adrienne. She writes romance and commercial fiction where gloriously unlikable women get their happy ever afters or the revenge plot of their dreams. As a BIPOC creator, she creates stories with a diverse cast of characters that make their readers feel seen. She's also the author of the picture book No Way Wash Day. So I can't wait for us to dive into, of course, Don't Tell Me How It Ends. And I
Yes.
have the arc,
Yes.
which is fine. Um, totally fine. So I'm ready to just dive in, ask some questions, but I want to turn it over to you. Is there anything that you want to share before we go into our book chat?
Um, I mean, no, let's see how you plan to kick it off. It's just the book's been out for like a week, so I'm just really kind of excited to start having these conversations about the book and digging in a little bit more.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so um, in one sentence, what's one thing you've tried to control in your life that didn't go as planned?
Oh my God. In one sentence. Um, every damn thing. No, I guess if I had to pick a thing, I don't know what the sentence for it would be, but I am like a little less than a year and a half out from a divorce. So I'm gonna say my marriage. Um, but but yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like anything could fit in there.
That is understandable.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. So I really enjoyed this book. And just when Penguin told me about it, and I was like, yes, we need to have Adrienne. I don't care what for, let's do it.
Yeah.
Because especially now, and me being a 30 something, dating is hard.
Yeah.
It's stressful, and I can't even imagine how marriage is. But dating now makes me be like, y'all can keep the marriage.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I feel like a completely different, it's like a completely different arena, obviously. So I feel like it depends like what's hard about dating for you that will inform like whether or not marriage would fall into those same categories or if it becomes something completely different. But yeah, I mean, relationships are hard regardless. I just think that dating and marriage are hard kind of in like their own unique ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I have a few questions of just your or origin story and just learn a little bit more about you. One, who is this story an ode to? Like, who would you dedicate this book to if someone was like, oh, I need a new read, like no spoilers?
Yeah. Who would I dedicate it to? I think probably everybody who is kind of figuring it out as you go. I feel
Mhm.
like there's so many different like layers, I hope, to the story that you could take away from coming from like different places in your own life and on your own trajectory. And I think that with all the characters in the book, there's like something you could draw from it. For me, it's all of it. It's sort of like speaks to the universal experience of just life and love and coming of age and coming of age again and coming of age again and just all like these like major transitions that we're kind of always figuring out on the fly.
Yeah,
So for me, it's really just for everybody who wants to feel like seen in the mess.
I totally understand that. And what did you have an emotional or personal spark behind this book? Like, what made you say, like, this is what I'm going to write?
Yeah. I think that every time I'm trying to think of like what am I going to write next or what do I want to do next, it's
Mhm.
sometimes a reaction to what I wrote previously more than it is like really something from my own daily life that sparks it. So for this, I had just kind of come off of writing something that was really heavy and very emotional and like very sad. And, I just wanted something that was a little bit lighter and more fun. And I've always loved romance and rom-coms, and so that's always where I mean, the last thing that was heavy and sad was also a romance. Um, but I love the sort of levity and the humor of a rom-com, but
Yeah.
like the depth of, a little bit more of like the drama of life, because I feel like even while we're laughing, all that real stuff is happening all the while. So, yeah, for me, I really wanted to write something that felt sort of like a quintessential like ode to like those old rom-coms, those old school rom-coms that I've always loved. Um, and then once I kind of get into that headspace where I'm just kind of playing with like, ooh, I want to write this or that would be so cool, then I just kind of let my brain just play and wander, and normally something will just kind of plop into it, drop into it. So for this one, it was characters first. Like I knew the general kind of story I wanted to write. I didn't know the plot or the problems or the, whatever the details of it. But the characters from the start were always very present in my mind.
Okay. And I know you mentioned your love for rom-coms. Do you have any favorites? I'm curious.
Uh, Gosh, there's so many. I just rewatched, like, I mean, so many. But I just for the book that I'm working on now, just rewatched 10 Things. No, not 10 Things I Hate About You. What's it called? How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
Okay.
And so, because I was just trying to like hone in on a very specific like plot element. And so that one was one that came to mind. And so that's like at the forefront of my mind right now, just because I watched it like yesterday.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, God, there's just so many good ones. I feel like the like late 90s, early 2000s was just like prime rom-com era. And then obviously I we're like getting some good ones back that I hope we're going to start a new trend of new rom-coms, because they're so fun.
Yeah. I'm
Yes.
super excited. So hopefully, wishful thinking, this turns into a rom-com.
Yes, I will take that, please.
Was there a specific question about love or timing that drove this story for you while you were writing it?
Um, I don't think it was so much a question as it was like a new understanding, maybe. Just well, maybe both. Like I think that there was an understanding as I've moved through life in different stages. You opened with like, what if you tried to control that? Just you couldn't. And I feel like that's a lot of my journey up to this point has been sort of recognizing that even things that feel like missteps or detours or like steps backwards are
Mhm.
often like you're still right where you need to be, and like getting all of the lessons and the learning that you have to go through in life. So I feel like for me it was a lot about grace and just like sort of acknowledging that it's okay to not always be in the driver's seat. So I feel like that was kind of a driving principle. And then in terms of questions, I didn't have anything like at the forefront of my mind, but I feel like if I had to think about it now, looking at the book and kind of just reflecting on everything, it's probably just that, how can we be loved even as we are imperfect and in progress?
Okay. I love that. Okay, let's get into some of the core themes that transpired across the book. Um, I'm curious, where did Kaya's guarded approach to love come from? Because she's such a strong female character, and I love her sassiness. I love how she gets into this situation. So I'm just curious from your perspective of when you were building Kaya, like why did you make her guarded in this situation?
So I feel like there's always like a hunger for like the why and like the deconstructing of characters, but so many of mine just like show up very fully formed. So she came in with like her own sort of voice. And I feel like as I went, it just became like more and more present and bigger and louder. I feel like there's like nothing better for a character than to be loud and wrong. And so she gave like the as I went, it was just sort of like turning the volume up on, things I've thought or said, things I know, like friends and family and loved ones, and there's just so many women are having different conversations all the time about relationships and dating and marriage and divorce and motherhood and all of those things. And so it's just, I feel like sort of like an amalgamation of like all of these familiar archetypes and characters that I've known in my own life and conversations that I've had, and then trying to kind of have someone represent someone who felt very familiar to me and hopefully familiar to readers, even if she's like the extreme doing the absolute most, in a way that helps kind of stir the pot and the plot. But yeah, so for me, Kaia is very, she's familiar to me. She's like, she's someone who I know. She's like, we get drunk at wine night and we kick it and so for me, she felt very real and like lived in. But the specific, like, is she gonna be romance averse and how is that gonna come across? I feel like sometimes characters, they just show up and they are just very much themselves from the start. So she was kind of like a both and for that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. So I just like how you just made her just very spontaneous and just very fun. So then when she gets into this situation, and for those who may have not read the book yet, um, what was it like coming up with this? Because I'm always curious of like scene placement and then
Yeah.
how you build conflict and then build up things within your plot points to where you want to transition somewhere else. So like that first meeting of Ro and all the way into like, okay, she wasn't really feeling this, but then we got to the part of like, now it's like, oh, maybe.
Yeah. I think it's just sometimes it's like having that like unreliable narrator where they're putting off something that's very different than what's going on below the surface, and sort
Mhm.
of kind of always holding that really like keeping that really present. So it's like she's moving one way and she's saying one thing and she's acting out, but it's all coming from a place of self-protection or fear, or there's like some reason that she's setting her own limits and trying to control a situation, and it's not necessarily as simple as it appears to be. And so I feel like the more you understand the character and the journey that you ultimately want them to go on, you just put them in these situations and then how they would react. And so you just put them in kind of the situation that would test them the most fully and
Yep.
help them get there. And I think that what's fun about Kaia is in every dynamic that she's put in, there's like this very clear push and pull.
Mhm.
And so I think that adds a lot of like natural movement for me to the story, like just how I see a story coming together. So just like like just keeping her under pressure, but then giving her like space to breathe every once in a while. So just like finding the balance of like getting to where you're going in a really indirect way. So she gets to play and, be a little miserable for a while. And then we get to take her out. Torture her as long as we can and then set her free.
My poor girl. One thing you just said was pretty much her being an unreliable narrator.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I kind of miss just in storytelling, because it adds so many layers to like what you're reading. And it kind of is like a ping pong game
Yeah.
going on when you're reading a great story. So I really like that you did that to her, because it's like, girl, you say one thing, but you're doing something else. And the
You
math
don't
is,
know. Yeah.
you just need to just sit on this ride with
Yes.
us.
Right. Which is really like the ultimate lesson that she had to learn, was just to like just sit, just take a seat, let it happen. But yeah, I think it's interesting too though, because like if you say that you miss it or you don't see it often, it's interesting to watch the reaction from readers if you do try to give it to them, because there's it's like you're kind of like damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, because people really want to love the characters that they're following. Not everybody, some people are good with like, I couldn't stand there and I was so much fun. But you do run into a lot of readers who I think want to just be able to settle in for the ride themselves. And so it's hard. You have to, it's a balance, I think, trying to be like, you're not going to love her. She's not always going to get it right. She's going to get it wrong a lot. and then stick with her anyway. So I feel like it's a tough balance, and it doesn't always work, and it doesn't always work for every reader. Everybody wants something different. So you just really have to like follow the character and the story and then just see what happens, because I love that. I love a character who I can't stand and I would never, in real life I'd be like, "Girl, what is it that you are doing and why are you not already in therapy?"
Yeah.
But in a story, I'm down, I'm down for the ride.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me because as Black women, we're always like, well, I want to do this, I want to do this, I need my man to be like this, or my significant other to do this. And then, something or someone comes in, it's like, whoop, I'm gonna just show you everything that you aren't going to get,
Yeah.
but you like it anyways.
Yeah.
And I think, as Black women, we always kind of want to be semi in control, but then also
Mhm.
learning like you can handle that. That's I always say, around the house to like my dad or my uncles or my grandfather, if I'm around them, like that's a man's job. Like anything that's like small little things where it's like, oh, can you take out the trash? And I'm like, they wouldn't ask me. But and then just growing up around my grandparents, and still to this day, my grandfather is just turned 92. My grandmother turned
Ooh,
90 in December.
amazing.
My grandmother has never filled up her own gas tank.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's obviously there's a lot of that that's generational. That's just,
Yes.
different. So if that's what you are wanting, it's gonna be a certain kind of man, which it always has to be a certain kind of man. But I do think that there is a truth to, and it's true for Kaia, it's true for me, and it sounds like it maybe is true for you. It's like you want to be in control, and you know what you want, and you're so capable of in yourself and in your person. But it's like when you realize that you can also be soft or let your guard down, it really does kind of show you that you are in good hands. You are in a safe place. And so I do think that that realization that like you're safe, you can, breathe a little bit. It really does speak to your partner, or, who's the man who's trying to be.
When you were crafting Ro, what did you want his character to represent or challenge?
I wanted him to challenge I wanted him to challenge Kaia kind of in all of her assumptions and beliefs. But I wanted him to do it in a way that felt real. I didn't want him to feel like perfect and just like a two-dimensional sort of prop standing in for what we want, men to be. I wanted him to feel like his own person and his own character. And so I wanted him to do it in a way that felt very particular to him and very fitting for Kaia. Like it could only be him. Um, I wanted him to not scare easy. I
Right.
wanted him to be very comfortable vocalizing the things that Kaia hadn't always been comfortable enough to say, being soft where she felt like she needed to be hard. I felt like I just wanted them to really kind of like feel whole together, but very real on their own as well. Um, so for me, a lot of that is kind of, she is it's a single POV story. So like she really is our main character. We're with her. And so for me, it was really like, okay, we know who Kaia is and we know in like what she needs, even if she may not know. And so who can give it to her? Who can stand up to her when she's dead ass wrong? And also, you know, like tell her,
Mhm.
but in a way where she feels safe to say, shit, maybe you're right,
Mhm.
So I feel like just it was really a lot about balance
Yeah.
for them, because I didn't want him to like come in too strong and
Yeah.
scare her off. But I just didn't want either one of them to scare too easy.
Do you think if he did come in too strong, like she would be scared off and it's like, oh, he's giving me the ick, or just like, oh, this is
I don't
pretty
think she would have believed it.
cool.
I think it would have felt like too easy to poke holes in. I feel like it's again that like push pull of like how, you know, kind of like making him prove that he was gonna be for real, that he was gonna stay and be able to stand up to her at her best and her worst and everything in between. And so I feel like that really is like there are characters where a slow burn is absolutely a must. And I feel like
Yeah.
for Kaia, for her to believe it, for her to let her guard down without noticing she's doing it, she really had to be like a very like slow boil to where she didn't even know she was in the water. Um, so yeah, I think she wouldn't have. It would have been too easy for her to be like, "Oh, you're one of those dudes."
Yeah. It's kind of like she enjoyed the challenge a little bit. Like, how much deeper can I push him? Like
Yeah,
there's those characters that you write or people in real life that's like, how far can I go?
yeah. I
Look,
think if I think for her, well, like so. Listen, anytime you read it and you whatever you take away, and I'm always like, oh yeah, like that's good to know. For me, when I was writing her, I felt like it was just she couldn't help herself. She really just had to because she was just so busy trying to prove herself right, that men ain't shit. So she was like, to do that, she's like really had to make him work for it harder than maybe he should have had to.
well, you know what? I think there should be more labor of men
Yes.
for it. Don't make
Yeah.
it easy, ladies. Don't make it easy.
No, please.
Um, is Kaya and Rose connection, like when you were forming this, like, do you think you were more focused on timing, compatibility, or readiness, or like all three?
Not no, not readiness or timing. I think that because if we're talking readiness, she wasn't, and if we're
No.
talking timing, it wasn't great. So I think that it was kind of the opposite. Like I think that there's a lot of I love when romance as a genre is like very intentional and very mindful and very sort of like we go to therapy, we do the work, we show up as our full selves, we get healed, we handle our stuff, and then we come to the table. I love that. I also love the other thing where you're not ready, the timing doesn't make sense, and the universe says, "Okay," and so I feel like
What
for
you gonna
me, yeah, and then there he is anyway. Um, and so I feel like for me, it was the other story. It wasn't necessarily a story of like, this is how you get to good. It was like a story of life happening when you're not ready, when you don't expect it, and when you don't even necessarily think you want it, and it happening anyway. And I feel like that was what was more important to me, especially in thinking about like the loss of control and the learning to release it. So yeah, timing and what was the other thing you said? Timing and
compatibility and
oh yeah,
readiness?
compatibility, yes. But yeah, timing, no.
um, why was it important to you to also make sure that this book centered around sisterhood as well?
That to me is everything. I feel like the how, like we're talking about how you can be soft when you feel safe, and I feel like her home base was Zola. Her home base was her sister and that relationship and that dynamic, and I feel like that was home for her in a way that we couldn't overlook. I don't think we would have known her without that, and I don't think she could have gotten to where she was without that. Same as, on the flip side too, like Zola relied on her just as heavy. I think that what I've come to know for sure in my life is that regardless of anything else in the world, if you have that like home sort of love and support and solid, like that solid foundation with like the women in your life, the community that you keep and, create, then you're good.
Yeah,
Regardless of whatever else is happening, like you can fall apart because you have that foundation that's got you. And so for me, that's what Zola was. And I think that it's like a very key element in any of us kind of like launching on to the next thing. So for Kaia, I don't think she could have done it without, really having Zola in her corner,
yeah.
even if she came, hard sometimes.
No, I think it's so important because when you're going through these personal situations with a potential suitor, significant other, and you need someone, because if you talk to yourself, you're gonna be in your head,
Yeah.
and she's already in her head
That's
too
the
much.
last thing she needed to be.
And
Yeah.
it's like having a good sounding board, or like with my friends, like all of my friends will come to me for advice. And are you like the advice person in the friend group? Like everyone comes to you, or you're like, y'all don't come to me. Don't ask me for nothing. I got enough.
Yeah. No, I'm the advice one.
Okay.
But I mean, I feel like everybody has their strength and their moment. And so it's like I'm the advice person in my ways, and then very much not like so my sister and I, this dynamic, these sisters in the book is like very much crafted thinking about my sister. And we absolutely go back and forth. And so sometimes, you know, it depends whose phone is ringing, like who's in need, and then I got you, you know? So it's like, I don't think it's necessarily like a brand that we just keep and then that just is what it is. I think it's really like all give and take, you know? And so it just really depends who's going through what, when, and what the other person's dealing with that day and what they have to give. But yeah, no, it's like that advice and that just support is everything.
I also want to talk about like the how you craft friendships when you're writing.
Mhm.
Also making sure, because it's so important to make sure that, because friends are like a secondary dynamic of characters underneath family, and just making sure that, like, does the friend even like my significant other or potential person? Does my friend even like my sibling? So how was that crafting both Kaia and Rose friends, and intertwining them with their families?
It's always interesting, I feel like, because for romance, and especially like the way I read romance, I'm like, give me that couple, and I don't want to talk to anybody else. Like, I really want to just like be with them on every page the whole time, but that's not the reality. And I feel like it's, there's so many, like, if you have the romantic arc and you know what you're going to do with that and you know where you want it to go, and then you think about the individual character arc, that's where friends come into play in a really big way. Because like of all the things that Kaia was dealing with, her friends weren't like they were there again to challenge her and again to be a mirror that she may or may not want to see. So again, it was home, but not in the way where home is like perfectly made and ready and just it was like a come as you are, but also there's some realness in here. And so I think that it was again just what her character needed to grow and grow up. And so Kaia, so for Kaia, it was that, and then for Ro, I think it was just to like flesh out his character in a way where you see that he has this whole life separate from Kaia and separate from where the story takes place, and he has his whole world. And so where you see how much he's giving to Kaia, how present he is, and how focused he is, and how in it he is, how locked in he is. It doesn't detract from all the stuff he's dealing with in his own world, in his own life. And so I feel like that's really important, because if they don't feel whole, then I'm not into it, as a reader.
No,
In a
that
writer,
makes.
I mean. Yeah.
So if you could choose a team, would you be team Kaia, like she needs healing first, or team like, girl, just take the risk, jump off the cliff?
I think girl, just take the risk,
Okay.
because I don't think that the order matters as much as that you just do it. And so I don't think that taking the risk means you can't also then heal, do what you need to do. I would definitely make sure we're there too. But yeah, no, I don't think, I think that that's something that probably I've also like gotten to it like later in my life, is just that like the order and the steps you think you're supposed to be taking, who made those?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think you can do it all, and I don't think that the order of operations is as important as that you like just do what you need to do when you need to do it.
I always think it depends on the person, because some people do need to seek therapy first, and then you go
I
out.
mean, we're talking about the book, a book. If I'm on the phone with my sister, my girls, it's a different conversation. But
It's
like,
like, girl.
for am I team Kaia do it? I'm team Kaia do it. But yeah, I mean, it absolutely depends on the person and also what it is you're dealing with and up against. Because I'm not trying to make my mess your mess unless it's, something that we can handle together. I feel like there's so many things that you're going to go through in life. You can't ever come like fully prepared. It's impossible.
Yeah.
So it's just, yeah, it's a different answer if we're talking for real or if we're talking about the book.
But also, it's like the book is real because I think so many people can relate to these different experiences.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. But I guess what I mean is like it's like a finite look.
Mhm.
It's like a moment in a person's life when you're
Yeah,
looking at a book. And
yeah,
so the hope and the understanding is like that there's beyond the page there's so much happening that you can still like control and still whatever. And so yeah, I think it's like easier to say when you're looking at a book like and then they live happily ever after includes the full person and their full selves and their full healing too. Absolutely. So in my mind, that's what happened.
yeah. Now, I just want to know, like, what made you come up with the whole matchmaking experiment concept for this?
It's so funny because every time I talk about this, I give like a slightly different answer because I think I'm still kind of figuring it out too. Um, I just think it's fun. I think it's fun to see how people are in different situations with different people opposite the table, opposite the person. And so I think it was like a cool way for me to kind of see Kaia in these really distinct situations. And you can kind of see what she leans on and what she gravitates towards, what comes out most naturally for her, and you can see like the development there. But I think it's also just fun. Like I love seeing that the like matchmaking shows. I love it. Always have loved it. I just think it's like a fun romance setup that breeds a lot of kind of like ridiculousness on the date, a lot of like downloading afterwards. And I kind of loved the idea that like no matter who was across the table, there was always one person in her mind. I feel like just that because I think it becomes more and more like harder and harder to lie to yourself, you know, when
Yeah,
your brain's just going where it's going regardless. So I think it was like taking her again, just removing control from her and giving it to Zola, who that's all she wants in the world.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, what did writing this story teach you personally?
What I mean, man, I could probably point to every page and be like, what and that, because I feel like it was so many things. Like as you're writing it, you're just like, well, okay, like damn. Um, so many things in terms of, I mean, and then on every different level. Like, I mean, there's motherhood lessons here and kind of things that I had reflected on. I feel like what's interesting to me is I'm at an age where I have always only ever watched something and identified with the daughter, the child.
Mhm. Okay.
And so now I'm at the age and I have a daughter. So now when I look at like take in media, I'm like identifying with the mother. And so for me, this was a really fun way to kind of play all the roles.
Mhm.
And I feel like there's a lot of learning and lessons in that, looking at everything as a whole in like this very finite space where you're reacting and acting. So it's like I would be like the problem and the solution. I would be, the wisdom and you know what I mean? Like it was just like to be able to kind of like play all of those voices and see myself at those different stages and also see characters who are completely different than me. I feel like it really does give you enough distance and perspective on a lot of things that are universal about falling in love and sisterhood and womanhood and dating and being lost and being found and letting your guard down and all of those things where for me I can't help but reflect as I go. And I think
Mhm.
that doing it like as a whole from like the mother's perspective and then the girls, the sisters, the love interest, all of it, it really does kind of test what you believe about these things in ways where you maybe hadn't like looked at it as directly. So as Kaia's learning, I'm learning right along with her. But then practically, there was so much from writing the book, like the actual writing of the book, that I mean, this is a book that I had written and rewritten and rewritten and you know played with in a lot of different ways, a lot of different times. Um, and it was still new enough to me that every day I was just learning, like, oh, okay, like this is how I can test this, and this is how I can push that, and this is how I can, rephrase that so every word feels like it matters. I mean, I was changing scenes, like the book that you have, the arc. There's a chapter in there that's like completely rewritten just from that stage to final, which you're definitely not supposed to do that. But it's just there was so much learning on the job and really kind of like seeing things differently as I went that um yeah, it was just like the whole process was just like an education for me.
I love that. How long, I'm just curious, how long did it take you to finish it?
I'm so bad with time. Like, I don't know, a long time. I feel like I couldn't even tell you the year I started writing it. I just know that it was like a different book than when I first wrote it.
Was it
Um,
pre-pandemic or during the pandemic? I feel like it's like
it was after, but but I started writing during the pandemic. So I mean, you're right, you're on, and it's familiar, I know, but it was so. But this one wasn't the first book, so this one was after. Um, So yeah, girl, I don't know. It took a long time, so many drafts, so many. I mean, it's a process. It's pretty wild. I
well,
mean, it's
it's
great,
drafts
but it's wild. You said what?
that it takes drafts to get to a masterpiece.
Oh yes, thank you.
What would you tell Kaia if you could sit down with her personally?
It probably depends at what point in the story we're sitting down. Um, I think at the start I would just tell her to breathe. Uh, and at the end I would just tell her, you're gonna be okay. You got this, because I feel like it really is like the whole point for me of the book is that coming of age never really ends, and we're always learning as we go, and we're
Mhm.
always figuring it out. And so it really is just about giving yourself grace and giving others grace. And I think that, for my own parenting with my own daughter, for myself, like that's all it ever is. I don't think that there's like this big, takeaway at the end. I think it's just what you learn is just that you're all right, that you're okay.
What conversations do you hope readers take away from this book?
Probably that. I mean, I feel like so much of it is just grace. I think that, it's so easy to judge these fictional situations and come at them a little bit harshly.
Mhm.
Um, but I hope it also tests sort of our own capacity to just like let people have their experiences um and figure it out. um I don't know, I think that there's so much good stuff. I feel like it's, you could have a sister or a conversation about sisterhood and what that looks like and what it does for you and the ways that it's kind of shaped you and given you wings or whatever. I feel like you can talk about motherhood and sort of this silent sacrifice there, that you know you're imperfect even as you are performing, this like all being this like all knowing, all seeing force. I think it's just kind of like forgiveness and yeah, I mean, there's so much because like like with her dad, that's like a whole separate conversation. I feel like it's just there's so many conversations, but I feel like it all just comes back to like humanity and just accepting the experience as it is, as it's happening, and then finding the grace in it. So, I mean, I think that I would love for the conversations to be as fun and light and, you know, relaxed and swoony as they are like deeper and more kind of more deeply into just like the human to human connection.
Yeah. Would you consider, and maybe this is already happening, would you consider doing a spinoff for her sister?
So there's the second book coming out is there's a first chapter in the back of this book for book 2, which is Zola's book.
Yeah.
So it's like that's a spin-offy as I think it'll get. Like I don't think it would be I don't think it would be like Kaia and Ro again.
Okay.
Yeah. They'll always be there if it's in the world, but I think it will, like, to keep it fresh, it would be like a new focus, new characters each time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I love
I
that.
don't have any plans to do a series or a spinoff initially at all. So I definitely don't have many plans to keep going with it. I think it's just like, what the reception is, what the hunger is, and then if there's like an actual story that feels like it's worth telling.
Yeah. Okay. I want to do our little rapid fire questions. It might be like 3 to 5 questions.
Okay.
If you could pick one song to describe this book, what would it be?
Oh my God. Someone asked me this the other day and I had an answer and now I'm like, what's music? Um, what I will say is that there have been a couple edits with Shy Light songs pulled from the text, and I have been like that. The Shy Lights have such a connection for me to my childhood that every time I hear it, I'm just like, oh. And so I love that for just vibes and just like, the nostalgia of it. But for the actual story, I feel like it's God, I don't know. I think the other day I said "Let Lotto, Are You That Somebody" song because again, it was like, I mean, there's so many ways to go.
Honestly, so
The
many ways.
songs are hard. I feel like being like pull a song or pull a movie. I'm just like, oh my God, I need like a minute.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's fine. That's why it's round robin.
Yes.
If you could cast a Kaia in a Ro, who would you want?
You're gonna be like so sick of me by the time we're done here. I the problem is I when I write, I see like blob shapes. Like I see everything about them except for their faces. And so it's like when I don't think about them as like actual
People.
people. So like I never do a fan cast. I always just like people will send it to me and I'm like, "Oh, I love this. That's so good. That's exactly right." There's been a bunch of Michael B. Jordans coming at me for Ro.
Okay.
There's a model who I sent my cover artist as like inspiration.
Mhm.
His name is Broderick something, I think, but I mean that's not really a
Oh,
fan cast. Do you
I
know who I'm
think
talking about?
yeah, and he's like an influencer model.
I
Yeah.
actually truly don't know. I just found pictures of him and I was like, "Yup, that's Ro." But I don't know what he does. I mean, I know he models. I don't know what he like, what he does beyond. For Kaia though, like that's so hard. Do you have one?
Um, because they have to be witty.
Yeah.
I have to think on that. I think actually, have you ever watched All American?
Mm-mm.
So it's a girl, she plays a twin. And I think she would be great at that because she knows how, like, she's like a little awkward, but she's like super witty, where it's just like,
Oh,
but
that's
she
perfect.
like punches the needle, like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
gonna do it anyways. I think
Yeah.
I forgot her name. I think her name's like Samantha or something, or maybe that was her name in the show. But that's who I think. But
Yeah.
well, I'm definitely on the Michael B. Jordan or Broderick. I can see that.
Yeah.
I can definitely see that.
I gotta check out the All American Girl though, because that makeup, the like witty and awkward is exactly it. I'm like, awkwardness is driving everything Kaia does. I don't know if y'all know that. I don't know if y'all picked up on that.
My last question for
Yes.
you before we end the recording is dang it, I just had the question. Now I'm like, did it just leave me? Um, can you give us like a little snippet of what you're working on now? Like high
So
level?
right now I am about to turn in Zola's book.
Okay.
And then I'll go to a new project, but I think I'm gonna pivot a little bit and because we're still pretty far out for the like romance contract and that work. So I kind of want to just play a little bit. I kind of want to see.
Like a different genre?
Yeah, a little bit. I think I want to play with like romantic suspense a little bit.
Ooh.
Yeah, just kind of mix it up. I always wanted to feel I don't know if you have this, but people put out so many books and it's amazing, but I want it to always feel fresh. Like I think if it feels fresh to me, it'll feel fresh to you guys. And so it's like really important to me that I like keep just like playing around. So yeah, so that'll be the next thing I'll start probably next week.
Yeah, that's exciting. I love to see when authors play in different genres.
Yeah, it's fun.
Definitely. Oh, one last question. It came back to me.
Yeah.
Um, do you have a routine when you're writing? Like, is there anything where some people are like, I have to light this specific candle, I have to hear this song?
Yeah, mine is just like full sensory deprivation, like no sounds, no
Mm.
music, which is like very sad. And I'll just sit here and just, you know, bust it out. But no, I'm like snacks and drinks, but no other real routines. Beyond that, it's just like I have my daughter's 7, so I'm still just kind of writing around her schedule. And so that kind of like drives the house. And then I'm just like writing when I can, where I can for as long as I can.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, my routine is just lots of food and drinks.
I love that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta keep it simple.
Mhm.
Well, Adrienne, thank you so much for your time. I
Thank
really enjoyed our
you.
conversation. I really enjoyed the book. Everyone, please make sure you get Don't Tell Me How It Ends in all stores,
Yep.
Barnes and Noble, Amazon. You will definitely enjoy the book. I'm super excited. I hope we do another book chat for when Kaia's book comes out.
For
I
Zola,
mean,
yeah, for
it's
sure.
gonna yes, I'm super excited for Zola's book. I think it'll be very, very interesting. So I can't wait to see what you do with the story.
Yes, thank you so much. It
Of
was so good
course.
to chat.
Yes. How do I